We're doing another Covrprice Top 10. We're going back 2 years. All right, guys, we're going to get into this 2 years list 2 years ago. This is Covrprice's top 10 from 2 years ago. We're going to go over the list and see where those books were 2 years ago and where they are today. Before we get into it, if you could hit that subscription button if you haven't already, greatly appreciated. Hit the thumbs up. Doesn't cost you anything. Please leave a comment down below. I always like to hear how many of these books you guys had and whether it was a good purchase or a bad purchase based on the current market. Also, in the description down below, there's a discount to Covrprice. So you can get a discount using the code down below. And if you guys mail a lot of comic books, you need bags, boards, boxes, I have a 10% off coupon code for GeminiComicSupply.com. Check that out too. 10% off $100. That's a $10. It'll save you on shipping pretty much, or taxes. So that's it. That's VERYGARY 10. Do that over at GeminiComicSupply.com. All right, got all that out of the way. Oh, and don't forget, I am on eBay. Give me a follow over there. Save me as a seller. I'm loading stuff into my store left and right. All right, let's get into it. Again, this is our Covrprice Top 10 from 2 years ago. How are those books doing 2 years later? Let's start out with number 10. This is Spider-Verse number 6. 2 years ago, this book was molten. We were still a year away from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but the community already knew a couple of things. One was the film was set to feature 200 plus characters. This book features 8 first appearances and a cover that feels like a Spider-Verse film. Naturally, fans flocked to it, thinking at least one would appear in the film, but they had a tough time as retailers had ordered sub 20,000 copies. That's a low number. That drove prices up, causing this book to trend for $275 for a near mint raw copy, while 9/8 hit $1,575. 2 years later, we know the film featured a gaggle of characters, but most were so quick, it hardly mattered to collectors outside of the "oh, cool" appeal. That doesn't bode well for the retaining value, which we see now. Currently, raw copies are trending for $75. 9.8s have fallen sharply to $549. This book is a bust, but not necessarily a loss. We still have another film in the trilogy, which helps the odds this book could get close to what it previously topped out at. Oh, we're going to blow through that. And numerous characters to explore and energize down the line. With so many first appearances and awesome cover and prospects, and the prospects it holds, it's a good book to secure for current prices as it's the lowest we've seen in years. This cover is awesome. This book is great. I've had my hands on maybe a half a dozen, and none of them were 9.8. Now, I don't know if I was just unlucky, or it's a difficult book to get in high grade, but under 20,000 copies ordered that's very low for a solicited comic book. Under 20,000 copies. That's low. Let's get to number 9, one of the greatest Thor runs ever. This is Thor God of Thunder number 2. Good golly, 2 years ago, this book was the apple of collectors' eyes. Thor Love and Thunder was just 2 months from release, and fans were ecstatic to see Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, who first appeared in this book. The book had been hot for months as collectors were confident Taika Waititi would follow up the beloved Ragnarok with another awesome outing. Bale was seen as a can't-miss villain who would be difficult to adapt, but Bale could get it done if anyone could. This book would become a weekly staple of top 10 lists everywhere, causing near mint raw copies to trend at $152. 9.8 sat around $480 before it topped out at $600 later in the month. Hindsight is 2020, and we know that the film fell flat. The consensus was that Bale killed it as Gore, but there wasn't remotely enough of him. Instead, the film focused on comedy for comedy's sake. Prices have been declining since, with near mint raw copies currently trending at $25. 9/8 hovering around $75. It's a bust, and one many collectors didn't see coming. It's a cautionary tale that despite having the right ingredients on paper, the final recipe may not be your liking. It's a difficult line to walk, but a cautionary tale nonetheless. Despite its fall from grace, this is still a great book for Thor fans to acquire and much more reasonable. Gorr is one of the best villains we've seen in years, and it's a major key in a beloved run. If the price is tolerable, secure it, as it could maintain value for years to come. This book is so ridiculously undervalued, in my opinion. Throw the MCU away, okay? Let's just not even pretend that the Love and Thunder, the train wreck, fight me in the comments, the train wreck that was Love and Thunder destroyed this book. Go read this arc. Thor God of Thunder is one of the best Thor runs I have ever run. Jason Aaron is a genius, and seeing what they did on the big screen and what they did, like, they ruined this. But this price is insanely low. For the first appearance of Gorr at $25 raw, and a $75 for a 9/8 first Gorr. He's on the cover. The covers are all the book. It's Asad Ribic, artist. The covers are killer. The arc is tremendous. Like, Gorr is probably the best Thor villain aside from Loki, if you count him. Like, Gorr the God Butcher. I can't stress enough how good this was, how amazing this run was, and I cannot wait to meet Jason Aaron at Terrificon to ask him his thoughts on the movie. Let's get to number 8. This is Batman Beyond the White Knight, number 1, second print, Virgin Foil, 1 in 25. In our previous 2-year reflective, we touched on the first print of this book. It was bonkers hot, mostly due to fans wanting a copy of the new Robin's first appearance. This awesome Virgin variant second print allowed fans to secure a copy if they missed out the first time. It was a hot commodity out of the gate, driving prices sky high. Near mint raw copies were trending for $100, while 9.8 copies sat around $180. Not bad for a brand new book, but not sustainable. DC has done nothing to follow up on the new Robin, which soured collectors. 2 years later, near mint raw copies are trending at 60, 9/8, feeling the brunt of the fall, sitting at $71. This book is a bust. For those who are big fans of Batman Beyond or gorgeous variant covers, it's worth taking a look at solely for what it is. As a prospect, it's unlikely to reach similar heights unless DC takes a hard look at building up the new Robin. If that happens, it could recover. With raw copies and graded trending so closely together, it may be wise to take a swing at a raw copy, as sellers have been unwilling or unable to come off the current graded prices. However, when graded books do sell, they're doing all right. Unless you're in the gotta have it mode, steer clear. Otherwise, keep an eye out for tolerable prices. I'm going to say this now because I do say it every video. Don't do what I say. Take what I say with a grain of salt. Take it as a small bit of information. Do not listen to any one person on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. Collect as much information as you can on certain things before you invest big money on these books. Let's get to number 7. This is Vengeance number 1. 2 years ago, fans were one day post-release of Multiverse of Madness, and the America Chavez craze had not yet left the station. Prior to release, this book was trending for months, if not off and on for years, in anticipation of the character's debut. Near mint raw copies were trending at $250, while CGC 9.8 copies were trending at $12.50. 2 years later, we know that as time went on, the thrill slowly dissipated. Fans just weren't satisfied with the entirety of the film, albeit they loved parts of it. But when dealing with hype such as this, parts of a whole aren't necessarily enough to maintain momentum. That led to a steep decline, with near mint raw copies now trending at 62, 9/8 at $200, on par with what it was trending for when copies started hitting the aftermarket heavily in 2018. With no notable future plans for America Chavez outside of potentially playing bit roles in the future, many collectors have opted to shift their focus to other books. Despite a drastic fall, now may be the best time to secure a copy, as it's the cheapest it's been in half a decade, and still a key with potential, albeit murky potential at that. Still, the America Chavez fan base has exploded over the years with no end in sight. It's unlikely to reach the same heights it once did, but that doesn't mean it's not worth a second look. If you're one of those fans, now is a great time to secure a copy. If not, keep on trucking. Multiverse of Madness had some good parts, had some terrible parts. I always consider Phase 4 of the MCU kind of like missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. And to me, Multiverse of Madness was a massive missed opportunity to bring characters into the MCU that even in cameos would have been really cool. Let's get to number 6. This is Captain Carter #1, the animation variant. This is a 1 in 25. Here's another book that was hot 2 years ago, thanks to the Multiverse of Madness. The fan base had gotten What If, featuring Captain Marvel, her debut in comics, and a glimpse in the trailer. I'm sorry, not Captain Marvel, Captain Carter. Leading up to the film, anticipation was sky high for that character, resulting in near mint raw copies trending at $325 and 98 trending at $560. 2 years later, we know Cap's fate in the film, unceremoniously cut in half by the very shield that was meant to protect her. She had a follow-up in What If Season 2 that left the fan base thinking there has been too much focus on the character. It's almost like the community collectively said, "I've had enough, thank you," and shifted their focus away from this book. Currently, near mint raw copies are trending at $22, less than the ratio. 9/8, just over 100. This book is a bust, which caught many collectors off guard. The hype surrounding the character was strong, the reception was solid, and the execution delivered. Potentially, we're looking at a too much of a good thing situation. Still, Captain Carter is here to stay with an avid fan base. She has the potential to do great things in the future, but it might be lacking in the present. But at these prices, it's hard to turn away. Near mint raw copy for a fan of the character, as it could easily turn a 9/8 into half the cost of an already graded copy. Now, let's take a second and realize this list is from 2 years ago. You're talking about the height and the hype and the explosion of the comic book market during COVID, right towards the middle of COVID, whatever. Basically, the hottest. We got it. 2021 was hot and 2022 was hot. So every book on this list is taking a beating, and you gotta understand why. Let's get to number 5. Thor #1. It's hard to describe the hype that surrounded Thor Love and Thunder. 2 years ago, fans were so pumped to get Natalie Portman back as Jane and continue that storyline. They were even more excited to see Jane become Thor, and the storyline led to the transformation. Near mint raw copies of this book were trending at $80. 9/8 were trending at $501 for this iconic cover featuring Jane in the Thor attire. 2 years later, and we know that Love and Thunder missed some important beats that made this storyline so popular. The first is the tone. The film was nearly absent. It was absent the tone that made this run near and dear to people's hearts, despite it being such a heavy hitter subject. It just didn't land with the audiences the way this book did, and slightly left the door open for Jane to return down the line, which led to a disconnect now seen on the aftermarket. Near mint raw copies are trending at $16, 9/8 at $85. It's a bust and a painful one. Fans generally anticipated Natalie Portman to stick around a while longer for the character to be explored in the future Marvel projects. Marvel seemingly shut the door on that, leading to a downturn. But for those who have been keeping their finger on the pulse of this book, now is a great time to secure a copy. Prices are back in the realm of affordable, and for a series and character with a pedigree like Lady Thor, there are numerous threads that can still be pulled. When or if that happens is anyone's guess, but it's certainly worth a second look. I do love this cover. Again, we're talking about Jason Aaron, one of the best, if not the best, writers on Thor. The Thor God of Thunder arc rolled right into this arc, and everything tied together, and then it rolled into Unworthy Thor. It was just, everything was great. Everything Thor that Jason Aaron touched was tremendous. Let's get to number 4. This is Exiles #3. This is how you know the hype for Captain Carter was on another level. 2 years ago, after a brief glimpse of the character in a trailer of Multiverse of Madness, fans were scrambling for anything related to the character. There was a slight debate surrounding whether this book was the first appearance of Captain Carter, as she appeared on the cover several years before her first appearance in Captain Carter #1. In fact, this book was merely Peggy Carter in a Captain America outfit, a what if you will, and fans ran with it. Near mint raw copies were trending at $115. 9/8 were trending at over $500. It topped out at $650. This book is a bust, mostly due to the fact that more within the community believe that This isn't the first appearance of Captain Carter. So then what is it? A cool cover, a possible first appearance with the division over definition. Collectors have been less willing to zero in on a copy. If the trend continues, it could potentially drop further, making this a wait and see book. This book is super cheap right now. I don't know how much more room there is for it to drop. If you really want it, it's probably safe to snag it. Let's get to number 3. This is Assassin and Son #1. 2 years ago, the series was freshly optioned for the big screen after the WWE posthumous, I can't say that word, introduced writer Shad Gaspard into the WWE Hall of Fame after tragically losing his life saving his son. It caused quite a stir and emotions running rampant within the community. The series was already well liked and now it was getting optioned. Sign us up. That caused quite a run on this book, with near mint raw copies trending at $15 and 98 copies trending around $80. Fast forward, and the community has heard absolutely nothing regarding the project. The company attached to bringing the project to life has been pretty quiet since early 2022, with no further updates provided. Naturally, that's led to a downturn in interest from the fan base, causing books to currently trend at $3 for a near mint raw, $15 for a 9.8. It's a tale as old as time within the community. Hype brews, excitement ratchets up, and then the fan base is left hanging. This book is a bust, but there is good reason to be optimistic. Overall, the project is highly regarded, but lacks the major mainstream appeal that a Marvel IP may enjoy. That doesn't mean it's worth tossing into the trash. Scout Comics is still relatively behind in the adaptation game, but they are steadily increasing market share. Even if an adaptation never gets off the ground, the barrier for entry is so low, it's hard not to pick up a copy. 9/8 for under the cost of getting it graded, that's an easy choice. If you're lucky, you may even spot a great copy for $1, in dollar bins. This is a book absolutely worth keeping an eye out for. A dollar book that could potentially blow up. Yeah, you take a stab at the dollar books. We're going to go to number 2. Before we do, I want to remind everyone to check out Covrprice.com. Check out It's an absolutely tremendous tool for all comic collectors. There is a discount. Now, it is free, but there's a discount code. There is a subscription level to it as well, and there is a discount code in the description down below. That does nothing for me, that discount code. That is exclusively for your guys' benefit. All right, Covrprice gave me that discount code for you. I get nothing from it. It's literally me passing it along to you guys from them. Save yourself a little bit of money. Sign up for Covrprice. Let's get to number 2. This is New Avengers number 7. We were just digging into Multiverse of Madness 2 long years ago, and fans were beyond hyped for the debut of the illustrious Illuminati. First appearing in this book, the discussion centered around the group for months before the film dropped. Who would be in it? What role would they play in the future? Etc., etc. Many thought that Illuminati would be stepping stone for the future of the MCU. Consequently, prices went sky high. Near mints were hitting $72, 9/8, $415. Then Multiverse of Madness hit, and Wanda absolutely bodied the Illuminati, which was comprised of a different team than what fans were expecting. It was a great moment within the film, but surface level. Clarification from higher-ups reiterated this was not the 616 Illuminati, and this team would likely never reappear with the same roster. Essentially, Disney Marvel gave off the impression that the fan base should enjoy what they got, but not hold out hope for more depth in the future. The fan base responded in kind, pivoting hard from this book, and now 2 years later, we see near mint raw copies at $9, 9/8 at $40. This book is a major bust and will likely remain so unless we get an Illuminati appearance down the line with a lineup that resembles what was featured within the book. A lot would have to happen to bring that to life, including introducing the Sentry and Wolverine into the wider MCU. We're a few years out from that at minimum, so this is likely a book to keep an eye on, but not fret over. The current price is lower than it was before the hype train took off, so it's worth picking up if the price is right now, but it could potentially fall even lower. You could find this book for like $5 and $10 at cons, in very high grade as well. All right, we are going to get to our number 1. Again, I want to remind you, hit that subscription button, the thumbs up, leave a comment down below. How many of the books on this list did you have, and did you pick them up at the right time? Here we go. It is our number 1. This is the Mighty Thor number 326 newsstand. Fans thought Marvel was onto something with the season finale of Moon Knight. Overall, the series was well liked, with one notable character seeing a steep rise in popularity. In the finale, Layla spreads her wings as the new Scarlet Scarab, which Marvel confirmed would be her moniker not long after. There was already discussion of a season 2 with Layla being a stronger focus. How that connects with this book is a slight mystery. However, as she isn't featured anywhere within. The only thing connecting the show and this book is the moniker Scarlet Scarab, and that was enough to see a rise in interest on the aftermarket. Near mint raw copies were trending at $50, 9/8 at $345. 2 years later, it appears the community has gotten wise. Despite it being one of the more popular properties Marvel has released in recent years, it doesn't appear a season 2 will occur. We're at the point where many have all but forgotten about the project and are more invested in future projects. Now, near mint raw copies are trending at $4. 9/8 haven't really sold in the past year. This book is a bust. The hype has left the station and it's suffering on the aftermarket. Still, the Scarlet Scarab is an interesting character and one with potential. Marvel could opt to shelf Layla as a character and pivot to the male version of Scarlet Scarab down the line. At the current price, it's worth a flyer to stick it in a long box and potentially see a rise down the line. It's currently not a given, but nothing in this hobby is. Guys, that is our top 10 from Covrprice. Please remember to come back next time. We're going back 3 years. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep it comics.